We now know that Dan Lanning will remain at Oregon. So, one of the top candidates for the Alabama job is officially off the board. Who is going to be that guy that replaces the greatest of all time? Who is going to fill in those shoes? Guys, my first question is this, and it may sound a bit crazy. Make no mistake, the Bama job, would you say it's the best in college football? I think you probably would, but it may be the toughest. The question I have is, who wants to be that guy that follows up Nick Saban? Guys, we've seen this before. When somebody follows up a legend, it feels like an impossible situation. Like it's one of those situations where it's like, you cannot do enough, right? You can't do enough. I mean, I recall when Nick Saban first got hired at Bama, or maybe it was just before, but I remember hearing about, they debated whether Nick Saban should wear houndstooth or not on the sidelines because, well, that's what the Bear did. So, I mean, we saw it at Florida with Steve Spurrier. Poor Ron Zook. I mean, poor Ron Zook was practically the sacrificial lamb in that situation. Never really had a chance. Never really had a shot. Because you get so accustomed to greatness. You get so accustomed to the dominance that a guy like Nick Saban had. What happens when a new head coach comes in and wins 9 games? If that were to happen. So, this is a special situation where there's a short list of real candidates that I think Bama probably wants. Who wants the job? Most likely everyone. I think there's a very small number of guys who don't want it. Dan Lanning has obviously come out and said, I'm staying at Oregon. And you know what? I get that. Because Dan Lanning's got something at Oregon that he's built that I think is really special. They're going to be a 12-team college football playoff team, guys. And guys, Dan Lanning doesn't deal with nearly the amount of pressure. It is nowhere near the pressure cooker that Alabama is. I mean, they've got expectations at Oregon. Don't get me wrong, but not like at Bama. Not like at Alabama, where if the next head coach goes 2 or 3 years without winning a national title, he's going to be on the hot seat. I think we'd all agree with that. He's going to be on the hot seat. There's no question. So, let's now remove Dan Lanning's name because, of course, as we dive into top candidates, and he was one of my top guys. He was number 1 for me. And, guys, I'll tell you what I've heard from folks that, I got a couple buddies that are in the industry, work for 24/7 Sports, CBS Sports, what have you. Either way, from what I have heard, and you've heard Josh Pate already say this and others, I don't think this is going to be a coaching search that gets dragged out very long, if long at all. I think you're going to see Alabama, they're going to work diligently, but they're going to move swiftly. They're going to move swiftly, right? I think they understand as well. Like, the short list for candidates, realistic guys who could handle the Bama job, who are going to come in, pick up where it left off, it's not a list of probably 10 names. It's probably 3 or 4 names, right? But I think they're going to move swiftly. From what I was told last night, Dan Lanning was going to be option 1. If he said no, brace yourselves. If he said no, Dabo Swinney was going to be option number 2. And if Dabo said no, Lane Kiffin was going to be option number 3. Now, does it get to that point? We'll see. Well, Dan Lanning said no. Is it going to be Dabo Swinney, guys? I talked about this when the Texas A&M job opened, and that I mentioned this, and there was some pushback, but I said, hey, listen, if I'm A&M, I give Dabo a call. There aren't many coaches in this sport that are active national champions that have won titles. The biggest knock against Dabo, and it's very fair, is the fact that for whatever reason, he just refuses to use the transfer portal. I mean, Clemson right now, guys, top 15 class, 0 portal commitments. They offered some portal guys, but 0 portal commitments. Is Alabama willing to embrace a guy like Dabo that obviously, guys, doesn't like NIL all that much? I don't know that he's a big fan of the portal. He doesn't show it. Are they willing to deal with that? Does Dabo change in his ways? Is it a situation where Bama says, you know what? Dabo Swinney's the best of the best. We'll handle a portal NIL stuff. We got it. The collective guys, we got it. We got the bag. We got the money. Guys, if I am Alabama, I'm throwing everything I got at Lane Kiffin. I'm throwing everything I've got at Lane. You could argue there's not a better coach in college football for this current climate of college football than Lane Kiffin. The portal king himself. The portal king himself. And guys, we already knew Lane Kiffin was a really good coach. What he was doing at Ole Miss. Then he started to get some resources. Then the Grove Collective, they started to put their money where their mouth was. And Ole Miss has turned into a beast. Alabama, they can write whatever check they want to write. It does not matter. Money is not real in college football, especially at Alabama. I am throwing everything I have at Lane Kiffin. And you may say to yourself, no way he leaves. This is the same guy that dipped out on Tennessee and went to Southern Cal. And I know the situation was different, but guys, I'm just saying, I think Lane Kiffin's a guy that, you know what? I don't think there's a moral compass necessarily stopping him. I'm not questioning Lane's morality. I like Lane Kiffin. There's not a fan base out there, maybe outside of like Georgia with Kirby, and maybe there's a couple others. There's not a fan base out there that should turn their nose up at Lane Kiffin. If Lane Kiffin wanted to come to your school, you'd take him in a heartbeat. And if you don't, you're an idiot. There's no other way to put it. But Lane Kiffin in this climate of college football, there's nobody better. I mean, there's literally nobody better for what college football is now. I'm throwing everything I got at him. Other guys, Steve Sarkisian, I think at Texas. That one makes a lot of sense. Bama's a place that, his career came alive there in Tuscaloosa, right? Done great things with Texas. He doesn't necessarily have any tie to Texas that's holding him there. So I think he could be an interesting candidate. I think that would be a great hire. What about Mike Norvell at Florida State? Is that one? I mean, I think Mike Norvell at Florida State could be interesting. How about Kalen DeBoer at Washington? What he's done with the Huskies. Would they go that route? Would they go Sharon Moore over at Michigan? I don't think they would. For those saying Deion Sanders, no freaking way. There's no freaking way. There's no way. There's no way at all. And it's not because Deion may not turn out to be a really great coach, but that's the thing. We don't know yet. And I just, guys, I cannot help but wonder, how would Deion's personality and his method of doing things, how would that be received by the old heads in Tuscaloosa? You know what I mean? Like, how would he be received? So I don't think Deion's a realistic candidate. I don't think he's got enough of a body of work, guys. He's had 1 year coaching at Colorado. It's a fun name. It's a fun name for sure. I don't think it's a realistic option. God, do they try to get Urban Meyer out of retirement? That's always a name that comes up when stuff like this happens. For good reason, though. He's one of the legends. I mean, he's not the most squeaky clean guy, but guys, it's all about winning. That's it. Who cares? It's about winning. I don't think Kirby Smart's an option, guys. He's not leaving Georgia. That guy's a Georgia alum. He loves Georgia. He's a dog in every sense of the word. Kirby Smart ain't leaving Georgia. Who am I missing? Is there somebody else? I mean, those are the ones to me that are very obvious. I'll be surprised if my source was correct, which I have no reason to doubt them. Dan Lanning says no, go to Dabo. Dabo says no, go to Kiffin. I'll be shocked if they get past that third option. Now, for those scoffing at the Dabo hire, there seems to be a lot of Bama fans that are opposed to the Dabo Swinney hire. Now, I get it. Dabo is a polar opposite of what Saban is. Saban, hard ass, get after it, in your face, that type of style. Dabo is just not that. Dabo's a different type of dude. He's a different animal, right? But he is one of the best coaches in college football. He is. He's one of the guys at the top of the sport. He's an Alabama alum, cut his teeth at Bama. Like, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. But guys, like I said, if I am Alabama, I'm throwing everything I have at Lane Kiffin. And I know Greg McElroy, guys, and on that note, Greg McElroy on their station, Jocks 94.5 in Birmingham, Alabama, said this, quote, Kiffin ain't an option. He's out, end quote. Is it Dabo? Guys, is it Dabo? And again, it's kind of scary how much it makes sense, guys. It's kind of scary how much it makes sense. You look at Dabo Swinney this year. You had the Tyler from Spartanburg thing. You could tell he was a little ticked off with his fan base. You know, you could tell. It was one of those things where does Dabo Swinney love Clemson? Because a lot of folks have predicted he'll be a Clemson lifer. Does Dabo Swinney love Clemson? Yes. But you can even outgrow something you love. You can evolve and outgrow something that you have a passion for, or, feel like I need to go to the next phase, next chapter, right? I can speak from personal experience, but you can outgrow things. The way Dabo spoke this year, the way he talked about the fan base and to the fan base, talking about the bottom, what did he say, 2.9% or bottom 3% or bottom 5% of the fan base, and that they were, really being critical of the fan base. Now, I don't know what he would expect going to Tuscaloosa. Like, they're going to be, oh, well, we're fine. We don't have crazy. We're just grateful for just winning a game. Like, the expectations are only higher there. But, and then you got the conspiracy theories that say maybe Dabo knew he was on the way out, knew the Bama job would open, and said, I don't need to worry about the portal. I'm fine. I'm not going to sweat it. It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. But if it were me, personally, I'm going after Lane Kiffin. But we do know this now. No Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning is out of the search. He is confirmed. He is staying at Oregon. So, who is going to be the guy that replaces the GOAT? Who can fill those shoes of Nick Saban? It's going to be fascinating to see, guys, as this is an ever-evolving situation, an ever-evolving coaching search. Heck, by the time this drops on YouTube later today, we very well may have an answer. Who knows? But one thing's for certain. The pressure is on whoever takes over. Is it Dabo? Is it Kiffin? Is it Sark? Is it somebody else? We shall see.